Hello and welcome back to the Kitchen Table Modelers Workshop. My name's Ian and this is my modelling setup. So what have we got for you today? Well, as with many people, they've been receiving their brand new tooled Academy A10-C in 1/48 scale. I've got my kit as well. A kit I have to say eagerly anticipated since it was announced a year or so ago. It's an aircraft that I really have enjoyed modelling. I've built the Italiere offering a long time ago, which was a wonderful kit, had its shortcomings and benefited from the addition of a significant amount of resin aftermarket to really lift the kit, but all in all it was a reasonably good build. But I think the market has been crying out for quite a while now to get a new tooled A10, certainly the C and potentially some of the earlier variants, to bring the kit up to modern standards. And Academy, pretty much the first one to get theirs to market. I think Hobby Boss have a tool that's quite a few teens of years old now, maybe. I don't know the exact date, but a good kit, a step up from the Italiere one. Tamiya, the venerable old A10A, quite an early tooling of theirs, but reasonably accurate, I believe. And then you've got Great Wall Hobby coming out with a new tooled A10. And yeah, the market seems to be awash with new tool kits, but it's an iconic aircraft, so the market's huge. The demand, I think, will be good, and this is a kit that I certainly have been really looking forward to having. So enough of my waffling. We'll get the kit on the table. I do, though, just as a bit of an interest, have the old Tamiya A10A, just to do a bit of comparison, a few parts. Let's see how far the tooling has come on from when this was first tooled, probably back in the 80s, to bang up to speed where we've got a brand new 2022-23 tooling. So enough waffling, let's get the kit on the table, have a look through, and then we'll maybe pick out a few parts from the Tamiya kit to compare and contrast. So we're on the table, and well, first off, Academy's box arts are fantastic. It's obviously a computer generated image, but it's brilliant. It really captures the essence of a modern A10 in theatre. You can imagine this flying over some mountain range in Asia somewhere, doing what A10s do, a feared and revered aircraft, depending on which end of the Go 8 cannon you're on. So yeah, beautiful box art. Let's have a quick look around. So we've got on the side here some images, and it's nice to see images of an actual kit built up. It gives you an idea of what you can achieve. There's detail here which looks like it's got a mask kit included with the kit. So we have got a kit number, no, a USAF A10-C 75th Strike Fighter Flying Tigers. It is kit number, there we go, so kit number 12348, and it is, if we look at the side here, 324 millimeters in length and 96 millimeters in height. It doesn't tell you the wing width, but it's quite a big bit. Look on this side, we've got all our paint call-outs. So we've got Humbrol, GSI Krios, Life Color, Testers Model Master, Revel, Vallejo and AK. No Tamiya unfortunately, but we can all do the conversions online. There's plenty of information out there. And then a little bit of blurb in each language, and obviously for 14 years and over, so it is not for children. And we've got the end of the box here with a number again, so 12348 35000. So there we go. Academy always have lovely up top and in boxes, and they're reasonably stout with good cardboard base unit. and rammed to the gunnels, but a substantial amount of plastic in there. Usual check parts before unsealing notice. Comes with all Academy kits. And then we've got quite a number of sprues. We've got a part with rear fuselage and engine nacelle. And we've got clear parts. We've got 1, 2, 3 bags of sprues. And then we have a bag with the masks, decals, instructions. Looks like 2 sheets of instructions. Right, so let's set this aside and then we'll go through the instructions first. Is it labelled part 1, part 2? Well, I can only assume this is the part 1 instructions. Yeah, okay, so we've got manual 1 and manual 2, so they are labelled, so you know the progression through the instructions. Again, paint colours on the front and some of the keys for the symbols you might see. So, part 1. Now this is just it's almost reminiscent of some old Tamiya instructions. It's fold out paper instruction. A little more cumbersome, but then you can fold it up the back to 1 sheet. So part 1, we're starting on the front wheel well. Moving through, got some masking for wheels, which is interesting. We've got the landing gear, tyres, part 2, ejection seat, into the cockpit tub assembly, instrument combing, instrument panel, maybe some rear cooling ducts at the rear, and then this sits on top. So part 3 is getting the cockpit on top of the wheel well. So obviously the wheel well's been inserted into the right hand side fuselage piece at the end of part 1. So by the time you get to part 4, you bring in this whole nose section together. So it's an interesting construction technique. A lot of A10s will have 1 full piece fuselage, but this has been broken down into at least 2 parts. Part 5, we have got the under fuselage coming together with the 2 top halves. Got some detail parts to go in the wheel well, and again the wheel well is offset because this is where the cannon magazine and barrel exits down the centre of the fuselage, so they've offset the front wheel well to account for that lack of space basically. Got a bulkhead going in there which is going to obviously steady up the front fuselage. Got some wheel well door, part 6. Part 7 is bringing this 1 piece rear onto the forward fuselage and putting the centre top panel in, which will have all the comms, satellite comms, battlefield awareness equipment in it. Again, in part 7, so they're quite cluttered, these parts maybe, compared to how they usually are. You're rolling the fuselage over and you're starting to put some of the weapons pylons under the centre of the fuselage. And again, you're attaching the front wheel well door, paying attention to these call out boxes here. You're putting sway braces in onto the main pylons. We've also got a colour call out here for your pilot if you want to include him or her, because there are females flying these aircraft in the US Army infantry. So yeah, instructions are getting a bit long and lapping around the table, but we can work around that. Moving on from part 8, we're going up to part 9 and we're starting to build the wings. So we've got a piece here going for the wheel well assembly. We've got a side menu here where we've got the air brakes either open or closed. We have got possibly the flaps. We've got wheel well detail, and then we've got more pylons, underwing pylons for stores. So from 9 we move down, so we're looking at the upper wing here, and then we move on to the upper wing. No, sorry, I do apologise. Ooh, difficult to tell. Yeah, lower wing, moving the lower wing down onto the upper wing, and then bringing the wheel well assembly and the flap assembly onto the wing itself. We've got, not sure what this is here, that looks like ordnance, so that's a bomb of some sort. That is possibly a targeting pod with masking on. We've got sidewinder, main undercarriage, then we've got the closed flap option for the wing, so make sure you decide what you want to do between the two, and then go with it. Attaching the underwing pylons and then attaching the weapons. So realistically, you'll build and mark all these before you and set them aside. You'll do all the painting and then you'll attach these, rather as trying to attach them and then paint and detail around them. It would be very, very difficult. Okay, so from that we move on to part 10. Again, it's a simple reverse of what we did for the other wing. So by the time you get to the end of part 10, you should have both wing assemblies made, and you can go on to join them to fuselage. So part 11 is bringing the wings to fuselage and putting on some of this rear fairing, both sides, making up some more ordnance, and then we're moving on to the part 2 of the manual, which is closing up the front end of the aircraft, putting in the cannon detail. We're looking at the vertical and horizontal stabilizers at the rear, bringing them all together. They don't look posable, but I'm sure with a bit of deft cutting you'll be able to do that. Part 15, so bringing the rear tail assembly onto the end of the rear fuselage and putting the rear fuselage end cap on. And then we're looking at the engine assemblies. So that's part 16. We're making the engine here, so we've got the fan blade, we've got the exhaust vent there, and then we're introducing them into these look fantastic slide molded details, but we'll have a look at them when we get to look at the parts. We've got the lower half of the engine nacelle, so we've got the front fan combings coming on, lower half going on, and then we're bringing that down onto the main fuselage. Again, this is going to be a point where you need to check the fit. If you've got a very, very good fit, it might be that you can paint everything and bring this together at the last minute and attach it with some glue under here, so you can actually weather and do all the weathering under here without having to worry about the engines getting in the way. But that'll be for the builder itself to do. We've got front splitters, we've got a HUD cover, or the HUD itself. Then we're moving on to the cockpit and some more cockpit detail and some of these aerial antennas. If you choose to have the crew access ladder open, you can. And then we've also got, I think this is ground power unit hatch open as well. And then we come on to, so that's part 18, and that's the final step in construction. Move on to the stencil data, and we've got some more stencil data here, and then we come on to the paint schemes. So does it tell you which one's which? Yeah, so we've got A10-C, the 75th ESF, 455th AEW Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan 2014. We've got tiger sharks with some of the old green camouflage that the A10As were painted in. So that's a 2017 scheme. And then we've got, bang up to date, we've got an A10-C of the 25th FS Assam Dragons, 51st Fighter Wing, Osan Air Base, South Korea. So that's 2021-22. I think that's the last scheme, yeah. And then on the back of the Part 2 manual, we've got the Sprue layout. So quite comprehensive instructions. So let's have a look at the parts and see what we think. So we may as well look at the clear parts first, and I'm going to resist taking them out of the package because I don't want it to get damaged, but one reasonable sprue. We've got the rear and the front canopies, and then we've got the HUD and the targeting pod, plus all the clear noses for some of the ordnance. The canopy looks absolutely crystal clear, can't really fault it at all. The rear canopy has got a centre seam line that is going to have to be removed. It's not a difficult thing, but it's a pain in the butt, to be fair. You're just going to have to be very careful when you polish the canopy, and you may need to dip it, but the detail looks really nice. We've got nice riveting in there right the way around the canopy. We've got nice prominent framing, so it's going to be easy to mask off, and with a wash the detail is going to pop, so they look really, really nice. Let's have a look at the rear fuselage. So, good sizable chunk of fuselage, obviously slide molded, and Academy have been slide molding for a wee while, and the detail is absolutely superb. Now, they keep in keeping with this aircraft. This aircraft is built in the 70s originally, designed in the late 60s. So aluminium framing and riveting was the way of construction aircraft, and these are the way these are. And if you can see this, the light will catch off it, but there we go. It's covered in rivets. So we've got all these lovely, beautiful raised rivets. We've got lovely recessed panel lines. We've got all these strengthening plates on the side of the fuselage. We've got APU exhaust, I believe that's what that is. And then if we look on the underside of the fuselage, it is absolutely stunning with the level of detail there is. We've got all the vents in here, very fine louvered vents, panel lines, hatches with hinges and latch panels, doubler plates. Absolutely stunning. Really, really nice piece of moulding. There is here on the top of the panel a seam line that will go, but you're going to have to be very, very careful not to destroy any of this rivet and detail. There's a little bit of variance in the panel lines, but nothing that couldn't be cleaned up with a scriber. The rest of the part, there's a little bit of raised. You've got ejector pins here, and they're a little bit raised, but you can just clean them off before you put the fairing plate in here for when you join the wings, and you shouldn't have a problem. All in all, a lovely part, and very strong and substantial, so there's going to be no warping or moving when you do come to join the fuselage together. Right, what else have we got in here? We have the nose and the cannon. I'm actually going to leave these in here because I don't want to lose them. Am I? No, I'll take them out. Okay, so there's the nose. Single piece, slide molded. And beautiful detail. Stunning, stunning detail. The fine, fine rivet detail in there. No nasty seam lines. Quite a fine attachment point. Should be easily cleaned up. Yeah, really, really nice piece. I've heard that there's a few queries over its shape. If it looks like an A10, it's an A10. It doesn't matter if it's not bang on. It's close enough for me. Now if we can get that to focus on that gun there. This is the infamous gun barrel. Come on, focus. There we go. And the ends are hollowed out. It's very difficult to see because it's such a small piece against my hands. I cannot get the camera to focus very well at all. I don't know if you can catch that in the light, but the ends have been hollowed out. They could probably do with a little bit of accentuation with a fine drill. But if you didn't want to do it, you're still going to manage it and get a hollow appearance. Lovely fluting, venting for the air cooling of the barrel. A really nice piece. And then we've got the heads-up display. All one piece, so you just obviously have to paint the side carriers. And it is crystal clear. You see that over the joint of my fingers, absolutely crystal clear, no distortion at all. Beautiful piece. Okay, and then we've got the bag with the engine nacelles. Now, when I said I built the Italieri kit, that was one of the areas that really let that kit down. The engine nacelles were horrendous. These have been slide molded, and they're very okay. There's a bit of flex, but nothing deadly. When you get the bottom plate on it, I'm sure that's going to stiffen them up. But they're absolutely beautifully molded, perfectly round, even, no flash. Beautiful. We've got hinge detail there, all the recessed panel lines and rivets there. It's going to take a wash absolutely stunningly. We've got the vent detail on the back and the front. Nothing wrong with those at all. Yeah, really impressed with that. And this is the joys of modern toolings, and they'll just sit lovely on the back of that fuselage, and it's such an iconic part of the aircraft. Right, so first bag, I'll just slide these out of the way. So first bag, we have got 4 sprues in here. So we've got 2 weapons, we've got the underside of the aircraft front fuselage. So we'll get out one weapon, which is Sprue. Can't see what sprue that is. Sprue D. So we've got Sprue D, Sprue E, and Sprue G. So 2 Ds, G and an E. So nice size sprues, not too big, not too cluttered. So we've got the inner engine detail, which has got lovely, hear that, rivets there, very sharp, crisp moulding. We've got the exhaust. Get that to focus. Sorry, I'll get that in shot. There we go. Beautiful detail. That'll take a wash lovely. And then we've got front fan unit. Really nice detail. Again, dry brush, bit of a wash. It's going to pop. I've heard that they're maybe not quite correct. Again, if it looks like an A10, it's an A10. It doesn't bother me. I'll be making it either way. So we've got the missile rocket pods, and we can either have it fired or loaded. And then we've got the tail section as well. Beautiful detail there. Got some bomb detail, if I get that more in focus. Got sidewinders here. More guided weapons here. Mavericks there. Undercarriage wheel with flat spot on, which is lovely. So it's a 2-part undercarriage wheel. We've got all the sway braces here. If I pull that away so you can see it, just an absolute row of spray braces, and they are beautifully moulded, very fine detail. It's really going to bring the kit to life. Pilot, I'll be honest with you, it's a little soft. The detail could be sharper. However, it looks like a pilot. You've got one there with, it'll focus, come on. So part 40 is visor up, part 39 is visor down. You take as you pick as what you want to use. All in all, nice. The plastic's a little bit soft, but Academy plastic is okay. And I've built lots of Academy kits in my time. I'm a bit of an Academy fanboy, to be fair. So I never complain. I quite like the way they build or produce their kits. Right, part G. This is quite an important sprue. So it's just a small sprue. But we have the main instrument panel. So let's get that in there so you can get it. Will it focus? Yes, it will. There we go. Beautiful detail on that. So a bit of detail painting. I'm sure there's probably going to be decals for the screens. It's going to come up beautifully. We've got the instrument combing there, and then we've got the undercarriage wheel well roof, which again is beautiful. fine rivets, raised ribbing, absolutely stunning detail. And then we've got slide molded here. There is a center seam on it, so again we're going to have to be very, very careful getting rid of the center seam so we don't destroy the raised rivet detail that's on the rear end. But that's a stunning piece of molding. We've also got the control column and other very small bits of greeblies, and the very iconic aerial. Get that focused off my hands. A very iconic aerial that goes on top of the fuselage behind the cockpit. So some beautiful parts there on G. Sprue E. So there's only two pieces on Sprue E. We've got what I believe probably be something to do with the cockpit floor, and then we've got this whole underbelly tray here. So this is where the gun would be, and you've got your ejector ports for the spent shells, your forward wheel well access, and then the gun will go down this side here. Now that is a stunning piece of moulding, and you can see that in the camera. Beautiful recessed details. We've got louvers on doors, hinges, hatches, rivets. It's all where it should be. Take a wash beautifully, and if it goes together well and you're very canny with the glue, that you don't use too much glue, then you're not going to end up having to lose some of that detail with sanding. Right, next sprue package. It's quite a big sprue. Now these sprues are well packaged. I know they're two in a bag, but they're tight enough together. They shouldn't ramble around too much and scratch on each other. If you wanted to, you could unbag your kit and rebag it separately, but it should be fine. So in this bag we have got sprue F and sprue A. So we've got the front part of the fuselage and some more underwing stores. So let's look at the big one first, and it's probably one of the biggest sprues in the kit. So we've got the forward fuselage halves here. We've got the underside of the engine nacelle. We've got the cockpit, part of the wheel well. We've got underwing pylons. We've got the other side of the main undercarriage wheels, so they're in two halves. Wheel well doors, ejector seat, parts of the cockpit tub, parts of the barrel combing for under fuselage, main landing gear, and they look really substantial. So let's have a quick look at some of the detail parts. Starting off with the cockpit tub, again all raised detail in there. So we've got all the switches, get that to focus, got all the switches, we've got moulded in pedals, but to be fair you're never going to see them. And we've got some lovely moulded detail on the rear of the fuselage tub, all the rivets and whatnot there. If we look at the wheel well, again beautiful detail in there. That'll take a wash and a dry brush, or should I say a dry brush and a wash beautifully, and the detail will pop. Lots of small detail here for the wheel well and the cockpits, I should imagine. If we look at the underwing pylons, they're all one piece molded, which is great. You don't have to glue them together. And again, they've got a stunning amount of details. You've got raised rivets, recessed panel lines, hinges and whatnot when you're working with them. The cockpit sides, we do it this way up. It's the only way I can get in front of the camera. Again, in keeping with the rest of the fuselage with regard to the depth of the panel lines, they all look pretty even and very well detailed. You've got the side access panel for the crew access ladder. And if we look inside, we've got a little bit of padding moulded inside the fuselage. On the reverse of the undercarriage bay doors, we've got some lovely detail. No ejector pin marks either. None too significant anyway. There are some here on the fuselage halves, but I would think where they're placed they probably won't be a problem. Even if they are possibly going to be a problem, you probably won't see them. We do have ejector pins here and here, but this is on the, I'm assuming these are something to do with the main undercarriage doors, possibly. Again, I don't believe you're going to, let's swipe the sanding stick and they'll be gone. Ejector seat, very nicely detailed, comes in two halves, and then you've got the centerpiece here for the seat. A little bit flashy, to be fair, for a brand new tool. You wouldn't expect there to be flash, but there is a little bit of flash. Nothing that can't be sorted out, but you're going to have to sort it out to make it look really, really nice. No molded seat belts either. Whether they're on the pilot, I didn't know if they were on the pilot or not, but they probably are if you're going to use it. So if you're not going to use the pilot, you're going to have to get yourself a set of foot wedge harnesses. Right, Sprue F, a lot smaller. Main external fuel tank, I believe that's a targeting pod, and then we've just got ordnance, part of targeting pods here, stabilizing fins for the fuel tank. All in all, really nicely molded. Again, look at the targeting pod, recessed detail in keeping with the rest of the aircraft. Nothing that, yeah, even here, part 18, beautifully recessed detail with the latches and hatches. It's fantastic. Academy really, really has come a long way since their inception and some of their earlier kits. And it's a company that I think is just growing from strength to strength, and it's definitely up there with Tamiya, Hasegawa, and some of the other modern companies like ICM. So yeah, I'm a bit of a fanboy, but the plastic speaks for itself. Right, last bag has got the wing sprues in it, and it's again a double, so I'll only take one out. So this is Sprue B. Oh no, I tell a lie, it's not a double. So you've got Sprue B and Sprue, let's find it, C. So we'll look at B first. So wings, uppers, lowers, flaps. I'm assuming that's another targeting system. These will be some flaps of some sort, I would think, or control surfaces. We've got these air splitters on the front. I apologise, I don't know the correct name for them. And then we've got parts for the undercarriage wheel bay. Now, generally, the wing surfaces are really, really nicely moulded. Again, consistent panel lines in keeping with the rest of the aircraft. Beautiful rivet detail on the access panels, and really, really nice detail here where the air brakes are. I mean, really, really nice detail. Very, very much appreciated for a new tool kit. We look at the wheel well. Again, beautiful detail, and these things are built like tanks. They literally are flying tanks, and you can see the level and strength of construction that goes into this aircraft by the detail they've included in the wheel well. Very, very impressive. Front fan faces here and here, one piece molded. Really, really nice. I've heard comments that they're too shallow, and it's not correct. I don't know is my answer to that question. They do look pretty good, but you know, if folks say they're wrong, they could be. It doesn't bother me. It's going to build up like an A10, and if you compare it to the old Italieri offering, they're worlds ahead. So it's one of these things. I'm sure in the fullness of time somebody will come out with a resin correction set for it if it is a problem. Right, last sprue, Sprue C. We've got rear tail assembly here. We've got the bulkhead for the front cockpit, front fuselage assembly. This is the drop down panel off the front of the wheel well. We've got the rear panel that has all the GPS and integrated battle systems antennas on it. We have these beautiful fairings. We've got control surfaces, SO air brakes, closed or open, and then we've got the main undercarriage wheel wells there. So a quick look at the tail. There we go. Again, consistent panel lining, raised rivets where it's needed, and extra detail in here, including where all the actuators are. Really, really nice. If we look at the vertical stabilizers, beautiful. You can hear that there. Beautiful, crisp rivet detail with the slime lines in it, and we've got all these sensor arrays. If we look at the top of the horizontal stabilizer, stunning detail. Absolutely stunning detail. Really, really impressive. Air brakes, So they can be posed open and closed, and I need to look at the instructions to see which is which. These ones here, I'm assuming these are going to be the open ones. Now, the reason I'm assuming that is because there's no ejector pin marks on them anywhere. Well, bar two, very easily cleaned away. These ones here do have ejector pin marks on, so they're going to have to be cleaned. So I'm hoping these are going to be the ones for the closed, and these are going to be open, and you don't see them. But I would need to check the instructions before we can say 100%. We've got the other side of the air brakes here, and again there's a lot of ejector pin marks here, but it looks like another piece gets glued on here to close that in. So that might be the case for this as well. But I'm sure Academy has planned it that you don't see the ejector pins when you actually finally construct this kit. Main undercarriage detail, very little. There are a few ejector pin marks in it. You're not going to see them once it's up on top and underneath the wing. They're all out of the way. Flare shaft dispensers here and here. They're a bit bland, but realistically, a bit of paint and detail, you'll be fine. And finally, these rear fairing pieces that join the fuselage to the wing, beautifully molded, absolutely crisp, solidly molded, no flash, and they should fit fine. Right, last but not least, I will dig out the decals. Again, I'm not going to take them out. Academy decals have come a long way from their early kits. These particular decals look to be in very good register. Important ones obviously are going to be the decals for the cockpit, and they look absolutely stunning. You've got the screens and then basically black and white decals. In all honesty, with the detail that's on the cockpit, you'd be better off hand painting the cockpit. You'll get a better result and it'll be far cleaner and crisper. But if you want to just take it all off and use these, you can, but I'll certainly be painting the cockpit when I use it. A huge amount of stencil data. They're all easily readable, right down to these small ones here. Maybe not these texts at the end, but they're all readable. Flare and shaft dispenser here to go in those areas, so that's going to sort that problem out. And we've got on the lower part of it here, we've got all the weapons decals, and then we've got here the walkway decals. Yeah, beautiful decals, shouldn't be a problem to use them, and you know, it's Academy, so they're good. Right, well, that's that. Let's just take 5 seconds. I'm going to dig out the Tamiya kit and we can do a bit of compare and contrast. So, Tamiya kit, and as always, huge fanboy of Tamiya as well as Academy. You have to say the box art is stunning. A10 over some dusty plane shooting up what it's designed to do, destroying armor and interdict against ground movements. So this kit is copyright. What kit number is it to start with? Right, so look at the camera. Item series number 28. If you look at the end here, you've got kit number 61028 and 3300. So it's one of their early aircraft kits, and in true Tamiya style, lovely green plastic. You've got 4 bags and a decal sheet. So let's have a quick look at the instructions. It's very similar to Academy and the one-piece paper leaf pull-out. That is part 1. So part 1, full fuselage halves, 2 sides. It would appear you need to weight in this, and you'll need weight in the Academy one, and I didn't note where if they said to put weight in it, so that might be a slip up on Academy's part. But anyway, fuselage, wheel well, more details for the wheel well, maybe there. No, that's the cockpit tub going together. Engines assemblies going together. Part 3, engines on the fuselage, wheel well going in. Simple 2-part wings, simple 2-part stabilizers, vertical and horizontal. 1 piece on main undercarriage doors, stores. The flaps, air brakes and control surfaces are all moulded into the wings, so you've got none positionable. We have the front splitters going on the wings, and we've got the nav lights going in. Very basic ejector seat, 2-part canopy. Got the cover option for having their crew access ladder displayed. Undercarriage, 2-part wheels, separate brake hub on the back. Got the rear main undercarriage doors as well. You can have this one posed open or closed, which is interesting. I don't think the Academy one had that option, but this does. So you can put a small hub on here, put the wheels on, close it all up for an in-flight display, which is really nice on Tamiya's part, I have to say. Being a jet, that's very easy to put them in an in-flight display. You don't have to worry about getting the propeller to look like it's turning. So part 9, fixing the undercarriages. F6, I believe that's a stand. If you didn't weight it properly, it shouldn't be there. You can close that hole up, or it might just be a stand point for when, if you want to do an in-flight display. Either or, you've got options. Gun goes on, targeting pod goes on, center line pylons go on. We've got some front forward stabilizers, I think they are, antennas around the rear. Cache of weapons in part 11. Part 12, more ordnance. Part 13, bringing it all together. Then we've got these paint schemes, and it is just the simple 3-colour green European camouflage. Very simple, quick instructions. So let's have a look at some of the main parts compared to what Academy's offered. So if I grab the wings first. We've got uppers and lowers. So Tamiya plastic, not too dissimilar from Academy, probably a bit more firmer. This was originally moulded, if we look at that, if you can see that, 1991. So this is a 32 years old. So that's the time gap between this kit and the Academy kit. So what can we say? Well, everything's closed up here. It's all together. Also, if you can hear that, it's all raised pan lining on the wings. If I grab the Academy wing sprue, so the lower half again is exactly the same. It's all molded together, raised detail, and you've also got a small recess for the pylons to fit in, so you've got to make sure you have a damn good fit there, otherwise you can end up with gaps. If we compare that lower wing with the Academy lower wing, what a world of difference. So this is what 32 years gets you. Get that shot. So you've got fully detailed wheel well, no detail whatsoever. You've got all these pylon marks, lining marks here that have got actually raised plates instead of a recess. Everything is recessed pan lines, and they're more accurate. These have just got basic lines. It's missing half of the detail. Recessed rivets, even down to the flare and shaft dispenser, far better moulded if you compare the two. Getting a bit closer there. And then you've got all the detail on the air brakes separately moulded, all the control surfaces separately moulded. And then if we look at the top of the wings, and to be fair, if we do a comparison, there's really not much in it. I get that fully in shot. There's the Academy wing, lay the Tamiya wing over it, and it's absolutely spot on. So the sizing wise, they are very close indeed. Detail wise, worlds apart. So as we saw before, Academy's got fully recessed details, hatches and everything in place. Tamiya, back in 1991, all raised details, raised hatches, raised rivets, and solid moulded control surfaces. If we look at the end of the wings, the slime lines, beautiful raised and recessed detail. Look at the the Tamiya wing. You've just got a moulded detail for the nav light, and that's it. So that's what 32 years gets you. A huge lightning jump ahead. But shape-wise, they're very, very close, I have to say. They're very close. And the Tamiya kit is credited to be quite an accurate kit when it comes to shape. Right. I'm not going to compare the ordnance because there's no point. We all know that the modern ordnance is going to be far, far better as the old Tamiya ordnance. But we are going to compare the fuselage. So Tamiya, one-piece fuselage, and it's raised, a mixture of raised and recessed detail. We've got recessed detail on the front and raised detail on the back. Underneath, we've got quite nice detail for the underside, and we've got Academy's bit here. So let's again, there's the Academy piece, there's the Tamiya piece. We put them one over the other. There you go. Get that lined up. They're very not far off at all. They're very, very close together. So again, if we're looking at accuracy, they're pretty similar. If we're looking at detail, they're worlds and worlds apart. There, compare the detail. Tamiya's kit's nice, don't get me wrong. For 1991, that's lovely detail. But look at what you get with the Academy kit. Absolutely leagues ahead. All the panels are in, all recessed details, very, very fine moulding. Yeah, just really, really nice. And if we get the rear fuselage halves, so obviously we've got separate fairings in the Academy kit. We're looking roughly around there. So we've got slightly elongated opening for the engine than compared to the Tamiya kit, but it's all recessed on the Tamiya kit, and then we've got raised on the Tamiya kit, and we've got recessed and raised detail where it should be. Recessed panel lines, raised rivets, because that's actually how the aircraft is. So if you're looking at the Tamiya kit, you could almost say it's significantly lacking in detail. I need to find the forward half fuselage sections. So if we look at these, and we'll just focus on the left-hand fuselage section. There we go. So we can see again Academy's recessed and riveted section compared to Tamiya's raised and recessed mixed. Shape-wise, they're not far off again, although obviously the cockpit is completely, if I can get that, it's very difficult to get it when you've got such large sprues. Yeah, the shape's nearly there, but the cockpit opening is completely different on the Academy kit compared to the Tamiya kit. Okay, so the last thing we'll compare, I think, will be the engine nacelles. So there we go, there's Tamiya's offering. It's for 1991, it's all, you know, if you looked at Airfix or Hasegawa, Italieri, that was the standard of the day. It was raised panel lines. It's crisp, nice, flash-free moulding. There is ejector pin marks in there, but easily cleaned up. If we take the Academy modern offering, there we go, get the light on it, you can see the difference. The sheer level of detail is just breathtaking, and it's why you pay the extra for the kits these days, and it shows what 30 years of development in model making does. Shape wise, they're quite similar. If anything, the Academy one is slightly longer if you match up the panel lines, and there's more detail on the Academy. So you look on the underside, if we get it orientated the same way, again the level of detail is stunning compared to the Tamiya kit, and that's what we expect for a modern U-tool kit. So anyway, there's a quick compare and contrast between a brand new kit and a 32-year-old kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear away these, get them back up, and we'll get back on me and we'll maybe sum up. So there we go, Academy's new tooled A10-C Warthog, or Thunderbolt, to use its proper name, in 1/48 scale. As usual, thoughts? Brilliant. Yeah, I always say that. It's a really nice kit. There's a few little areas where it could be improved, or it's a little bit difficult, and that's mainly on the slide molding parts and the seams that are to be removed, because you've got such beautiful in scale raised and recessed detail in. To actually remove those seams is going to be a little tricky without obliterating especially the raised detail. So that's, although great parts, you know, you lose a mark for that because there's obviously a slight misalignment in mold, or it's just the way it is. The pressures that are involved with bringing molds together, especially slide molds, and to get a clean, crisp mold is very, very difficult. But you can't fault Academy for that. They've done a really, really good job. But it's up to the modeler to then carry that through and get rid of the visible seams without obliterating the detail. So there's a lot of careful sanding going to have to go on to do that, but it's doable. We looked at the Tamiya kit, and you can see where the excellence and the improvements in modelling has come. So first off, the Tamiya kit lacking detail, the majority raised, solid moulded surfaces, and it's of its time, 1991, 32 years ago. It's dated. Allegedly, and I'm no expert on this, it's very accurate in shape, size, but detail is just falling down flat. Doesn't mean it's a dog of a kit, no, by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. You can either build it as is or take the time to rescribe it, re-rivet it, and bring it up into the level of kits these days. But when you get all the detail in the box, as Academy have done, with a little bit of skill and painting, detailing, weathering, you are going to end up with a fantastic kit. I might have breezed over it, but I didn't notice if Academy had included the need for a nose weight to go in the A10. The A10, because there's all these engines and that hanging way back over from where the main undercarriage is a tail sitter. So unless you put weight in it, it's going to sit on its butt and look horrendous. So certainly when I built the Italieri kit, I had to put quite a lot of lead in the front of it to get it to sit on this undercarriage, all three legs. Tamiya kit tells you need to do it. I didn't notice it in the Academy kit, so that might be another failing, but that might just be me breezing through the instructions without reading it properly. But if you're going to build this kit, make sure you put some nose weight in there. Have a quick look on the forums. I'm sure people will have built it and they'll know how much weight you need to put into it. So that's a must. But on the whole, I mean, I have to say it's recommended. It's a brand new tool, A10. It's leagues and leagues and leagues ahead of what was before. The Tamiya kit will probably be one of the oldest A10s. The Italieri kit is quite old. The Hobby Boss kit, a good kit. It's all recessed detail, but when you get this combination of raised, recessed, and slide molded detail all brought together in one kit, brand new package, you can't fault it. So I have to say this is a highly recommended kit. The price isn't too bad either for a modern tool kit. So yeah, go out, buy one, build it, and have fun. So there we go. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down below. I always take the time to read and reply them, and I'm grateful for anyone who takes the time to get engaged with the channel. If you like what you see and you feel it deserves a sub, much appreciated, or a thumbs up, that's fine. And if you do subscribe, just hit the bell notification to get my next video. Other than that, thanks for watching if you've gotten to the end, Stay safe and happy modelling.